Hey guys, it's Danimal MTG. Welcome back to video number 5 in my Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle set review and draft guide for Limited. Today we'll be going over all of the red cards in the set. If you haven't watched my previous 4 videos, go back and check those out, preferably starting with the Multicolor, Colorless, and Lands as I talk about the new mechanics and my grading system. Let's get into it. Our first red card is Bot Bashing Time. 3 and a red for a sorcery at common. Bot Bashing Time deals 6 damage to target creature this turn. If that creature would die this turn, exile it instead. This is pretty much 4 mana, exile anything at sorcery speed. That's a little slow, but it should always do what you need it to. Exile is almost always upside, but there aren't a ton of death triggers or graveyard things going on, so it's small upside this set. I think you always play the first copy of this and maybe the second, depending on how light you are on removal, but it's nothing to be excited about. 6 out of 10. Broadcast Takeover. 2 red, red, red for a sorcery at Mythic Rare. Gain control of all artifacts your opponents control until end of turn. Untap them. They gain haste until end of turn. This is a sideboard card at best, and even then it's maybe worth it in 1 opponent out of 10. Maybe. Expensive, triple pip, do nothing, almost all of the time. Skip, 0. Casey Jones, Jury-Rig Justiciar. 1 and a red for a 2/1 legendary creature human berserker at uncommon. He has haste, and when Casey Jones enters, look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal an artifact card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. This is a nice, efficient creature that can draw you a card if you have enough artifacts in your deck. 2-for-1s for 2 mana are great, and if you whiff on this, you don't really feel like you overpaid much. Stats aren't great, and the possibility of a whiff keeps us a little bit lower at a 6. Casey Jones, Vigilante. 1 red, red for a 4/3 legendary creature human berserker at rare. When Casey Jones enters, draw 3 cards. At the beginning of your next upkeep, discard 3 cards at random. Don't think of this as a 3-drop. Think of it as a card you play on turn 6 or 7 when you've already dumped your hand and will have some extra mana left over after playing him. Play him, draw 3, play 1 to 3 of those cards, discard what's left over. Hopefully nothing. This is the top deck you are basically most hoping for late game. It doesn't hurt that his stats are above average for the cost as well. I'm giving this an 8. Cool but Rude. 1 and a red for an enchantment class at rare. Level 1 says, when you attack, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. For 1 and a red, you can take it to level 2. Whenever you discard a card, this class deals 2 damage to each opponent. For 1 and a red again, you can take it to level 3. When this class becomes level 3, search your library for a card, put it into your hand, shuffle, then discard at random. These class names are weird, but whatever. This card is pretty cool in my Captain Howler Commander deck. Maybe it does some cool things in Standard with Spider-Man Mayhem cards, but this just seems really meh and limited. Rummaging is good card selection, and it's even better when it throws 2 damage at your opponent too, but it just doesn't affect the board by itself, and that's always a red flag in Modern Limited. At least if it looted, you could still get the 2 damage trigger every turn, but if you want to play the card that you drew for turn, then this is doing nothing. Not to mention that by the time you get to level 3, it's basically 2 mana search for a card and put it into your graveyard. I'm not going to give this a 0, but it's not far off. Giving this a 2. General Trag, Heart of Stone. 3 red, red for a 4/3 legendary artifact creature elemental soldier at uncommon. Trample. When General Trag enters, you may sacrifice another artifact. When you do, General Trag deals 4 damage to target creature. This seems really great in an artifact deck. Sure, by definition, you could never get a straight 2-for-1 with this, since you have to sacrifice something else to do it. But if you can sacrifice something like a mutagen token or another expendable piece of fodder, it'll sure feel like a 2-for-1. And not that red seems huge into sneak, but that's extra upside you could have here as well if you can get it back into hand to burn something again. I'm giving this a 7. Hard 1 Jite. 1 and a red for an artifact equipment at uncommon. Equipped creature has double strike, and equip for 2. Double strike is the kind of ability that can really close out games. It's great on offense or defense. This will be great if you have some big creatures to put it on. Unfortunately, you won't always have a good creature to put it on, and without a stat buff as well, it doesn't help make small creatures into great threats. Now there will be a lot of counters going around this set, and that helps make sure you have good creatures to put this on, but I'm not super sold on it. This gets a 4. Improvised Arsenal. 1 and a red for an artifact equipment at rare. Equipped creature gets +1/+0 for each artifact you control. 4 and a red, create a token that's a copy of this equipment, and equip for a red. If you have a good number of artifacts, this makes pretty much any creature a threat, and it's cheap and even cheaper to equip. The mana sink is nice but really slow. If you don't have probably 7 to 8 artifacts in your deck, ideally some of them are artifact creatures to equip this to, I think this just does too little, but if you have 7 or more artifacts, this seems pretty good. This one I think does need a build around of 3 without enough artifacts, but probably as high as a 7 if you do. Jenika's Technique. 2 and a red for an instant and uncommon. Sneak for a red. Jenika's Technique deals 3 damage to each creature. Small damage-based sweepers are really hard to evaluate because they're hard to find a good spot to use. The fact that it's hard to use does lower its point value inherently though, I suppose. Sure, there's dream scenarios where all of your creatures are X3s and this kills all of your opponent's stuff without touching yours, but that just doesn't happen very often. I think this is mostly a sideboard card that you pull in if you see a bunch of 2 or less toughness creatures on your opponent's side in game 1. This gets a 3. Manhole Missile. 1 and a red, instant, at common. Manhole Missile deals 3 damage to target creature. You may put a card from your hand on the bottom of your library. If you do, draw a card. This is great. Lightning Strike that gives you some card selection is awesome. Kill something, toss a card you don't need, and dig for bombs or more answers. This will play exactly like Volcanic Spite in March of the Machine, and that was a great card in its set too. 3 damage won't kill everything, but you'll kill a lot of things and trade up on mana a lot too. This gets a 7. Mouser Attack. 1 and a red for an instant at common. Choose 1. Create a 1/1 colorless robot artifact creature token, or target creature gets +3/+0 and gains first strike until end of turn. +3/+0 and first strike will win most combats, and that's the most important thing for a trick to do. The best tricks also help save your creature from removal sometimes as well, and this will never do that. The ability to make a body at instant speed is a great addition though. That, coupled with the fact that I think combat tricks get a buff this set due to sneak, makes this an okay trick. I'm giving it a 5. Mouser Foundry. 1 and a red for an artifact at common. When this artifact enters or leaves the battlefield, create a 1/1 colorless robot artifact creature token. 4 and a red, sacrifice this artifact, it deals 3 damage to target creature. For 7 mana, this will give you 2 1/1s, burn a creature for 3 damage, and give you 3 artifact ETB triggers. And you don't have to wait until 7 to do it. Get it out on 2 and let your opponent just see the removal that you have on board waiting for a good creature to use it on. It'll make them play differently, trying to bait you to use this on something they don't care about as much. Like I said, this plays out better in an artifact-based deck, but I think any red deck will be happy with at least 1. I'm giving it a 6. Mutant Town Musicians. 2 and a red for a 2/4 creature, mutant bard performer at common. It has trample and alliance. Whenever another creature you control enters, this creature gets +1/+0 until end of turn. This will spend most turns as a 3/4 trample for 3, and that's not a bad starting point. Throw in that it can get better and take away some due to the fact that sometimes it's just a 2/4, and I think this rounds out to a 6. Null Group Biological Assets. 2 and a red for a 3/1 creature, mutant mercenary at common. During your turn, this creature has first strike. Whenever this creature attacks, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. This dies to basically all removal, but is very hard to block. If it didn't have the rummage effect, I'd be much lower on this, but it does, so I'm interested in the first copy in most red decks. This should also help out with any sneak you have in red. I think I want to start this off at a 5. Old Hob, Alley Cat Blues. 4 and a red for a 4/4 legendary creature, cat mutant rebel at uncommon. At the beginning of combat on your turn, create a 2/2 red mutant creature token. It gains haste until end of turn. Destroy it at the beginning of the next end step. 1 and a white, target attacking creature token gains indestructible until end of turn. This is a pretty cool design, and I think it's a pretty good card too. You probably play this on 5, get a token, take a free swing with it, and then it dies. But then next turn and every turn after that, You get to keep the token around if you have 2 extra mana laying around. And by turn 6, you most likely do. As red-white cares about going wide, this looks like a really key uncommon for that deck, and it may even be splashable in other red and or white decks, giving this an 8. Purple Dragon Punks. 1 and a red for a 2/2 creature human rogue at common. Tap, add red. Spend this mana only to cast an artifact spell or to activate an ability. Conditional mana dorks always fit an awkward spot because they feel great if they get to ramp you, but really bad if they don't. It's a bear with small upside, but that upside really only feels good in the early game. It's just not exciting enough to need a build around. Play it when you have enough artifacts, and not when you don't. This gets a 4. Raphael, Most Attitude. 3 and a red for a 4/3 legendary creature, Mutant Ninja Turtle, at uncommon. He has Menace, and Alliance. Whenever another creature you control enters, you may exile the top card of your library. Whenever Raphael attacks, until end of turn, you may play a card exiled with Raphael. The starting stats aren't great as he won't survive a ton of combats if he even makes it to your next turn. But if he does, he can give you some good value. Note that he doesn't have to survive to be able to play the card, so even if he bites it in combat, you can still play the card in your second main. You'll certainly have some weird play patterns here where you want to play a creature before combat to get his first trigger, but then you don't have enough mana to hold up a combat trick to help him survive, or have enough mana left over to play the card he exiled. He seems like he'll always be offset by like 1 turn. He probably nets you at least 1 card in most situations, and if he ever gets you more than that, it'll feel great. This starts off at a 6. Raphael, Ninja Destroyer. 2 red for a 4/4 legendary creature, Mutant Ninja Turtle at Mythic Rare. Raphael must be blocked if able. And Rage, whenever Raphael is dealt damage, add that much red mana. Until end of turn, you don't lose this mana as steps and phases end. Stats are good, but nothing crazy anymore. If you can use the mana, cool, but he probably isn't swinging until turn 5, so it maybe rituals you for like 1 turn, but when most decks top out at 6, you're not really doing anything crazy most likely. This may let you double spell too though, but if you can't keep refilling your hand, the mana becomes useless pretty fast. This is mostly a 4/4 that has to be blocked, giving this a 5. Raphael the Night Watcher. 2 red for a 2/3 legendary creature, Mutant Ninja Turtle at rare. Sneak for 1 red. Attacking creatures you control have double strike. These stats are bad, but he can do a ton of damage out of nowhere. Also makes you hard to block later on. If you're really aggressive, this is okay for your late game, but otherwise a little underwhelming. This does almost nothing when you're behind though, other than a potential game-winning Alpha Strike, which isn't likely because we just said you're behind. I think the best way to look at this is a Trumpet Blast as a body with some additional upside. I think I'll start this at a 6. Raphael, Tough Turtle. 1 and a red for a 1/3 legendary creature, Mutant Ninja Turtle at common. His Alliance, whenever another creature you control enters, Raphael deals 1 damage to target opponent. Not totally sure what to think of this card. If you can get it early every game, it can come down as a decent blocker and throw some extra damage at your opponent. If you get them low enough, they basically have to use a removal spell on your 2-drop. But this is a pretty rough late game draw when you have nothing else in your hand. If your deck is good at throwing out a ton of creatures, this should be pretty good for you, but otherwise, I think it's just okay. Giving it a 5. Raphael's Technique. 4 red for an instant at rare. It has Sneak for 2 and a red, and it says, each player may discard their hand and draw 7 cards. I don't like this. Sure, a wheel for 3 can be powerful, but it's 3 plus losing the creature you use to sneak forever. Also gives your opponent the option, and unless you play full value on their end step, they're getting the first full crack at it. It's not totally unplayable because the ability to do a full wheel on their end step is very powerful, and it also probably means you did stone cold nothing on your turn. I'm sure at some point I'll have somebody do that against me and I'll think, man, that's cool, but personally, I'm giving it a 3 and avoiding it. Ravenous Robots. 1 and a red for a 2/1 artifact creature robot at rare. Whenever you cast an artifact spell, create a 1/1 colorless robot artifact creature token. Red and tap. Creature tokens you control gain haste until end of turn. This is a pretty nice artifact payoff. If you have a lot of artifacts in your deck, This could hopefully make a lot of little chump blockers or weenie attackers. It also obviously ups your artifact count. Second ability is just gravy. That being said, this is a bad top deck in the late game, but that can be said of a lot of 2-drops, so I can't be too picky. Even one trigger off of the first ability and you feel fine about this, and sometimes you'll drop this on 2 and it will run away with the game. Giving this as a 7 as a rounded out grade, but if you have 9+ artifacts, this may just play like a 9. Rock Soldiers, 3 and a red for a 4/3 artifact creature elemental soldier at common. When this creature enters, destroy up to 1 target non-creature artifact. This has underwhelming stats and a very specific target for its trigger. You'll have a target a lot, but most of the time it'll just be a mutagen token, and that's not worth a card with bad stats. 4. Slash, Reptile Rampager. 3 red for a 7/5 legendary creature, mutant berserker turtle at rare. Alliance, whenever another creature you control enters, Slash deals 2 damage to each opponent. Whenever Slash attacks, create a 2/2 red mutant creature token. Most likely scenario with this card is play it, hope it doesn't die, play 1 to 2 creatures on your next turn, and then attack and probably trade with 1 to 2 of your opponent's creatures while making a 2/2. That makes it a 2-for-1 with 6 damage sprinkled in for flavor. If it doesn't die on its first attack, you probably just win the game. Normally on a card like this, I would expect worse stats, but a 7/5 is pretty good. I want to give this an 8. Spicy Oatmeal Pizza, 2 and a red for an artifact food at uncommon. When this artifact enters, it deals 4 damage to any target and 3 damage to you. 2, tap, sacrifice this artifact, you gain 3 life. First of all, gross. Second of all, gross. 3 mana deal 4 is normally pretty good removal. Not great, but it does kill most things that you need it to. 3 mana deal 4 take 3 is much worse. This does cancel out in the end as it's a food and you can gain the life back when you have a spare 2 mana sitting around, but that also makes it hard to cast when you're low on life. Just know that you can hold priority with the damage trigger on the stack and gain the life first so that the pizza doesn't just kill you. Hopefully you have some artifact synergies to give this a little bonus as well. This does also have the option to go to the opponent's dome as well, giving this a 5 due to the drawback. Wingnut, Bat on the Belfry, 1 and a red for a 1/2 legendary creature bat mutant at uncommon. Alliance, whenever another creature you control enters, Wingnut gains your choice of flying, menace, or haste until end of turn. Whenever Wingnut attacks, each other attacking creature gets +1/+0 until end of turn. Starting stats are bad, but this can do a lot of damage in a go-wide deck. 1 creature to give it flying will let it attack freely most of the time, and 2 creatures to give it flying and menace probably gives it a free attack at least 90% of the time. Just load your board up with little tokens and other creatures, and this will make combat a nightmare for your opponent. Wingnut gets a 6. And our last red card is Zog Triceraton Castaway, 4 and a red for a 5/4 legendary creature dinosaur soldier at common. He has reach and trample. When Zog enters, target creature can't block this turn, and mountain cycling for 2. This seems like a fine top end for a low to the ground aggressive red deck. If you need to make your land drop early, you can cycle it, or you can cast it later to get a blocker out of the way and give yourself a better swing. I hate that this trigger can't do anything for you if you're behind, but it already has some modality to it, so it's alright. This gets a 5. And that's all the red cards for my Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles set review and draft guide. Next video, we'll look over green cards. If you liked this video and it helped you out, feel free to share it, like, and subscribe so I can help out more people. Thanks.